Well, more now on the conviction of Israeli soldier Elor Azaria, who shot dead a Palestinian attacker as he lay wounded and immobilized on the ground. Well, joining us now is Jerusalem Post legal correspondent Yonah Bob. Yonah, good morning to you. Thank you for speaking to us here on Sky News. So what do you make of this verdict? Was it a fair conviction, in your opinion?
Yeah, it was definitely a fair conviction. I mean, any trial can go either way. Going back in terms of the background, this is from March 24th. Two Palestinians attack an Israeli checkpoint in the very rocky city of Hebron. One of them, Abdel Fattah al-Sharif, stabs one of the soldiers. Both of them are shot. One of them is killed. Sharif is wounded. About 10 minutes later, an army medic and a lot of other people come on the scene. The army medic's name is Elor Azaria. He's the one who this is all about. And at some point on film, very, very slowly, he moves over to Sharif and takes a shot at his head, basically blows his head off, very, very gruesome. The video goes viral. Much of the international community condemns this. What's different about this than some other cases, which people say sometimes Israeli prosecutions whitewash, is Israel actually indicts him, and not just for negligent homicide, which has happened before, but for manslaughter. And that is what makes this case so unique. It's been almost 12 years since an Israeli soldier was indicted for manslaughter in a situation like this. So his side said, look, this was an operational situation. He thought maybe Sharif was going to reach for a knife. Sharif was still moving a little bit, even if not much, or maybe he had a suspicious coat on and there was concealed explosives on other, which is rare but has happened and is something that soldiers are worried about in this current knife intifada wave of violence between Israel and the Palestinians going back to October 2015. So, but overall, the judges said, look, we don't think there was actually a concrete danger. The knife, when you look at all the video footage and the testimony, wasn't close enough to his hand. He wasn't really moving. And this concealed explosive idea, it was something you came up with afterwards. One of his friends, known only as TM under gag order, even testified when he asked him afterwards, what happened? He said, I killed him basically because he stabbed an Israeli soldier, my friend. So that made it clear that this was a vengeance act, not an act of self-defense. Overall, I think there was some evidence for both sides, but I do think it was a fair ruling.
But it has really divided opinion, hasn't it? And Benjamin Netanyahu's called for him to be pardoned. Do you think that's likely to be happen?
So it has been very, very divisive on a level of a fight over the Israeli army's values. How should the Israeli army address terror situations or race situations where you might have somebody doing some amount of violence, but is there really a danger in this knife intifada I was talking about? In the Israeli domestic political arena, you have the former defense minister against the current defense minister. The former defense minister became former partially because he was too critical of Elor Azaria, whereas Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been sort of middle of the road. Well, I don't endorse what you did, but I have sympathy for you. And then there's also the International Criminal Court is looking very closely at this case because they're evaluating whether Israel's system of prosecuting its own is valid. Is he going to get a pardon? Even Netanyahu and a lot of officials are calling for that. I think at the end of the day he won't because of who was president at the time. President Reuven Rivlin has been critical of people who are criticizing the courts and the IDF legal system. So I think he's going to probably support the decision. A pardon would be seen as undermining the decision. But there are other people who, if they were president at the time, might have granted the pardon. Rivlin, I think not.
And what sort of impact do you think this verdict will have on Israeli soldiers and their conduct moving forward now?
That is a hot debate. There are going to be people, critics of this decision, are going to say there are going to be Israeli soldiers who are going to get hurt and who are going to even die because they're going to hesitate to shoot if they're not sure in a situation about how dangerous somebody is. And on the other hand, you have people who are supporting the decision who are going to say, this is what the Israeli army is about. Yes, it is about defending its citizens, but it's also about defending international law. And even an attacker, even a Palestinian attacker who stabbed an Israeli soldier has rights. If they are at that moment, what we call, neutralized, they can't actually be a threat. You can't kill them. It's almost like somebody waving a white flag. So that's what the question is going to be. The next time there's a gray situation, somebody attacking with a knife, not right on top of somebody, but from a distance. How are soldiers going to handle that? We're only going to have to wait and find out.
All right, Yonah Bob from the Jerusalem Post, thank you for speaking to us here on Sky News.